Story 1. So my mom is the most entitled, self-absorbed, selfish person I know. She grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth and her daddy paid for everything, so she has no idea how to adult, especially now at 72 years old. I have strived every day to not be like this woman. Truthfully, my mom didn't do much raising of me until I was about 15 years old. Other family members did prior to that. That being said, I gave birth to my daughter, Megan, in December of 2022. And she is the love of my life and the apple of my eye. My mom loves her for as much as she can genuinely love anyone or anything and seems to think they're going to be best friends. Her behavior, however, has far from reflected that. Every time my kiddo cries in the background while we're on the phone, my mom's first reaction is, "What's wrong with her?" Each time, I calmly say that she's a baby and babies cry. Then her next response is always, "Well, you never cried." Which I highly doubt. Over the phone, my mom has said things like, "I'm surprised you haven't looked at her and told her to stop. She needs to be quiet. I'm not in the mood to deal with her crying today. You're going to have to call me back, I can't listen to her." Nice, right? I have called her out on these kind of statements before, saying that it's unacceptable for her to say those things and to speak to my child that way. But she's the queen, so no one tells her what to do. She moved to our area recently, and my daughter started crying while we were driving down the road. Not even full-fledged, lung-emptying screaming, just medium-level crying. After a couple minutes, my mom leans around the passenger seat and shouts, "Megan, stop." And that's when I lost it. I tore into her and told her she will not scream at my child because she is my child and not her child. And that she was going to sit there and listen to her because that's what I have to do every day. I also told her if she has a problem with the noises my child makes, then she won't be welcome at our home. I yelled at her so severely that she cowered in her seat. Then I said very loudly and sarcastically, "It's okay, Megan, Grammy doesn't know what she's saying because she has no idea what it's like to raise a child." The rest of the car ride was pretty quiet, and it only solidified my decision to never leave my daughter alone with her. Story 2. My dog saves my ranch from entitled parents. This is an older story. Let me explain because I know your curiosity is running wild. A while ago, there was a trend on TikTok about kids going to people's ranch and letting their animals free. As all other trends, this one is deadly because you might get shot. I have a piece of property a little ways away from my home that holds cows that I am planning to keep. It's a good 50 acres. I have quite a bit of head there. Well, one night, around 3 a.m., I was asleep in my warm cozy bed when I get a call from the person neighboring that property. "Neighbor, dude, you better get over here right now." Me, why? What's wrong? Him, I don't know, there is someone or something in your pasture and your cattle are going wild. Well, shit. I got out of bed and threw my clothes on. I grab my gun, and my dog. I hop in the truck, and haul ass to the property. I get there, and sure enough there's some fucking Chevy Equinox sitting at the edge of my property. I drive over to see some kids in my pasture, with all the cattle running, and a male and a female in the car, recording them. I drive in there, grab my gun and shout to them. "Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?" "EK, nothing bro, relax." Me, "Don't tell me to relax, what the fuck are you doing?" "Ek, chill. We are just gaining some clout, that's it." "EP, Dad, hey, leave my boys alone." Me, "Hey city slicker, what the hell do you think you're doing at 3 a.m. sneaking into my property?" "EP, D, we're gonna get a lot of likes on this, man. Please dude, leave us alone. You ruined it." Me, "Fuck off. Leave, you're lucky I didn't shoot you or my dog didn't get a hold of you." "EK, fuck your dog." Me, "Excuse me. I don't believe I heard you." "EK, I said fuck your shitty dog." This kid had the audacity to pick up a rock and throw it at my dog. She was in the bed of the truck, and it missed her, but this plumb pissed me off. So I stick my head out the window and go, SSSSSS. Which is the sound I make to stick her on something, or this case someone. She's a blue heeler, so she's a herding dog, so she took off, and went to nibble on his ankles, which is how she gets cows to go the way she wants them to go, but when she did it to these kids, it just scared the piss out of them. EK, get your fucking dog off me, it's biting me. Me, don't worry son, it's a long ways from your heart. I was laughing my ass off while these kids were practically pissing themselves. I was pissing myself also because of how hard I was laughing. Story 3. Karen wants me to leave water park because of my tattoos. So since it has finally started to warm up, me and some of my friends, all 19 to 22-year-olds, decided to go on a road trip. We decide the appropriate thing to do is go to a water park and theme park that were right next to each other and spend a few days out there for spring break. So we get the theme park out of the way first and have a good time, then a few days later we head to the water park. So here's the thing, it's a water park, so obviously I'm gonna have my shirt off for a large amount of the time. I also happen to have a few tattoos, not to the point where my whole body is essentially covered, but a good amount. I have one on my wrist that is barely even noticeable, which is some Japanese writing. The other one is on my other wrist and it's kinda hard to explain, but it basically wraps around my wrist and has some lines coming out of it. It is way better than it sounds, I swear, LMAO. Third and final one is the most noticeable since it is a big back tattoo of a cross. Anyway, we get there and the first day goes well. It's a huge water park, so we obviously want to ride all of the slides. So I'm walking back to our table from the bathroom, and when I'm almost there, this lady looking like she's in her mid-40s walks up and stops me. I'm a bit confused, so I just wait a minute before just saying, yeah. And she immediately says that she has kids here and she doesn't want to see that. So I don't know what she's referring to, and hoping nothing is sticking out of my shorts, she immediately points to one of my tattoos on my wrist. That! My tattoo. Is there anything wrong with it? Yes, this is a place for kids and I don't want you influencing them to get one of these things. So I'm not really annoyed, just confused, since this is a place where 90% of the people have their shirts off and at least a few of them will have a tattoo of some kind. So I tell her that this is a public place and everyone has their shirt off, a good amount of them probably have tattoos. Of course, everything I'm saying in this isn't word for word since I can't remember every single word, but this is basically how it went. She completely ignores what I say and tells me to put my shirt on, which I obviously say no to. She tells me to put it on or she's gonna call security. I tell her to do it and she walks off. I go back to my table and sit down with my friends, and they were literally watching everything go down, and I am a bit nervous since even though I know I wasn't in the wrong, I still didn't want to get in trouble with security. About 5 minutes later, when me and my friends go to another slide, she comes running up to us with a security guard behind her. She tells him that I wasn't supposed to have them out, and he was just as confused as I was since he didn't see anything wrong and she didn't say specifically it was the tattoos. He asks her what she's talking about and she gets even more mad and points to one of my tattoos. Those. He asks her what's wrong with it and she goes off on both of us, saying how I shouldn't have those in a kid's place and she doesn't want her kids saying this. He apologizes for her and tells her to stop bothering me. She storms off and I continue with my trip with my friends. I saw her a few times again throughout the trip, but I don't think she saw me. Story 4. She's faking it. She's not having a seizure. She just doesn't want to work. I'm a 20-year-old female and I have a disorder called epilepsy. Please search it up if you don't know what that is. I was diagnosed at the age of 12 and have had problems with it since. Different kinds of seizures in weird places like the shower, in the middle of class, during some of my streams, etc. Backstory: I grew up in a small village that was very popular for tourists. The nature was gorgeous and there were so many things you could do at any time of the year. During summers you could take different hikes and stuff. When I was about 15 to 16 years old, I moved to a different city away from my parents though, not because of bad parenting. Because of my college location. Of course I did visit them sometimes like during vacations, breaks like summer, winter, you get the point. During one of my summer break visits, I decided to take on a job to see what it was actually like to work. My dad helped me get one by contacting one of his former employees who now was the boss of a restaurant located on the top of a mountain with a beautiful view. They sold pretty simple foods there that I could make while working for them. The staff there were really nice to me and we all did a little of everything because of the small amount of workers. Sometimes I was the chef and then a few hours later I would be taking orders or be the bartender for those who wanted non-alcoholic drinks. Little of everything. This restaurant was pretty packed during summer and almost every table would be taken for at least 4 to 5 hours straight. So we had a lot to do when it came to the food and serving it. It was pretty stressful for little me since I don't do good with loud noises and packed locations, PTSD. Kind of a nightmare in my opinion, but if I was an employee there, then I was going to work. My boss was very nice to me though since she knew my dad and my diagnosis. We did have breaks but they weren't more than 5 minutes long because of everything that needed to be done in this restaurant while it was open. Actual story. One day, a family of 6 walked in while the entire restaurant was packed with people. So much that some of our customers were sitting on the balcony floor while eating. They seemed fine with it though, lol. After about 7 minutes of me serving some foods and taking orders, giving it to the chef, I heard a super quiet clearing of a throat and turned around to see where it came from. It was from the family whom were now standing in front of the exit door, blocking it. I took a deep breath and walked up to them with a smile on my face. "Hello ma'am." She rudely interrupts me, saying, "Oh my gosh. Finally. You are so slow." At first I was shocked but then asked her if she needed help with anything. To which she responded with, "Well me and my family need a table pronto so that we can sit down and get some food. We've had a very long walk and need to rest. Especially my kids." She points to her kids who look to be around 10 to 15 years old and just looking at their phones. Even the husband was not giving a single shiz about what is happening. Well, at this point, Karen was right in my face, beet red and looking like she is going to murder me through poison with the huge amount of perfume radiating from her clothes. I backed away a few steps and said, "I'm sorry ma'am but we're packed at this moment. I can't give you a table right now. If you want to though you can wait outside the restaurant until I can." If it was even possible, Karen became even more red and screamed at me, "Let me see your manager. You are being so rude." I started panicking but did as she said and started looking for my boss who currently was washing some dishes in the back. I ran over to her and explained the situation. She told me to stay here and that she would handle Karen while I took on the dishes. After a few minutes of washing, my head started to hurt and I was feeling like I needed to sit down or I would collapse at any moment. I knew what was happening and as quickly as I could, took out my phone. I messaged my dad that I was having a seizure and that I needed help because it was getting worse. My dad sent a message that he'd informed my boss and was on the way here to pick me up since I have no way of controlling my body and needed to go home or to the nearest hospital, which was about 5 hours away from where I was. Straight face. My boss soon came back and told me that I could go home and she would handle my work today. When Dad arrived he took my hand so that I had support and we started walking towards the exit where Karen and her family were still standing with Karen digging daggers towards my dad now. Then she decided to make the most stupid decision I have ever heard or seen. Karen walked up to my dad and started yelling at him, "What are you doing dragging her out of the restaurant? She's supposed to be working to get my family a table. Her boss will fire her for doing this." My boss walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, even though this is none of your business, I have allowed her to leave because my employee is having a seizure and needs to go home for some rest. My dad ignored the argument and we kept walking towards the exit. Then without any kind of notice Karen grabbed me and started shaking me to prove that I wasn't having a seizure. My dad became furious and pushed her back, hiding me behind him. Out of Karen's reach. Don't you ever touch my daughter again. I will have you fucking arrested if you even try to talk to her. My dad shouted extremely loud at Karen so that everyone in the restaurant could hear us. It became completely quiet and Karen's face was as white as a ghost because she'd just realized what she had done. My dad then walked out carrying me in his arms to protect me since I was completely helpless now with how long my seizure had been going on for. A few days later, my boss told me that Karen and her family have now been banned from the place and if they try to come close, my boss will call the cops on them. And I can understand why. Because what Karen had done could actually land her in jail. She had attacked a minor who had a disability.